Welcome into the Graham Lincoln Mac Lane podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Graham Lincoln Mac Lane. Happy summer, Mac. It is June, which is really summer. I know people laugh at us when we start our summer guest series in May, but it is definitely summer. And it's our summer guest series. It continues on. It's been really fun so far, Mac. We have a fun guest today. This guy has really cemented himself in college football lore, if you will, with some recent events. Pete Nakos, college sports business and transfer portal reporter for On3's Sports. Say transfer portal reporter 5 times fast. You can't. But I know Pete from the Clemson days, Mac. He started on the Clemson beat like 6 years ago, and now he's big time. So this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, I've kind of stumbled upon him because of the Nico thing, and we'll talk about that. It's very interesting to get, kind of his vantage point. But then you and I were talking about, you're like, yeah, you used to cover Clemson. I'm like, what? That's crazy. So it is cool to see the glow up there and what he's done and how he's done it. And it's, as Pete will tell us here in a second, it's an interesting world. When you're a writer and you're dealing with sources and, trustworthy information and knowing you're building these relationships with ADs or coaches or players or boosters, whatever, when, you can lean on them for other things and when you can share it. If people are telling you things, there might be some uncomfortable timing where you're like, man, I need to write this, but you can't. And so things of that nature, he's figuring all that out, walking through all that as he's going right now, but just secured a really big deal, a long-term deal with On3, which is awesome. And we love to see, people rewarded for their hard work. So I love this conversation, Kelly. It was a ton of fun.
Absolutely. And let's just remind people before we get to Pete that our giveaway is still live, by the way, with
a couple more days.
Clemson and Ingles. We are this is our 500th episode giveaway that we announced last month. 2 tickets to any Clemson game, excluding LSU. Apologies, but these are really good tickets. $500 Ingles gift card, $500 travel voucher. Enter on our Instagrams at Eric McLean, at Kelly Gramlich. And we have a charitable component to it as well. And we will give money back to people still recovering from Hurricane Helene, pairing up with Ingles there in the North Carolina area. So make sure you go enter. It's not too late. We will announce the winner on June 30th. So you still have time, Mac.
Come on. Quick message from our friends over at Ingles, and then we're going to talk with our buddy Pete. Here we go.
Did you know that Ingles sells more organics than any other store? Or that they run their own dairy? Or that they only serve USDA choice and prime meat? Did you know that they have more local craft beer than any place else? Or that they have Energy Smart stores? Or that they professionally slice and package imported cheese from Europe? Did you know about their giant international aisle, local farm partnerships, curbside pickup, wine department? Or that they donate 3,956 meals a day to local food banks? Well, now you do. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Pete, welcome into the show, brother. Great to see you. Great to meet you. And hear kind of your thoughts on what is college football right now. I was joking with you before we hit record and saying you're a very busy man right now, but when aren't you in the world of college football? So great to see you. Thank you for your time, buddy.
Thanks so much for having me on. Yeah, there is not a downtime right now in college athletics. There's no such thing.
Absolutely. And Pete, we know you're one of the busiest college sports business and transfer portal reporter, which is hard to say, for On3 Sports. And On3 is blowing up in so many different ways. We've had a bunch of different On3 guys on, and you guys are always awesome. But Pete, I want to take people back. Okay. You were on the Clemson beat. We didn't even get a timeline here. Maybe around COVID time, maybe a little after that. Or maybe it was before.
No, it was right after COVID time.
Okay.
Like when we were coming out of it. It may have been like 4 months.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were there for a short time.
But I went to ACC Media Days.
Yes.
And hung out with Kelly. So
that's right. You were working with Matt Conley and On3. And so I just remember you from those days. You said you didn't even really have a title. You were just helping Matt, covering Clemson.
Yeah.
And now, Pete, you have, let's just say, moved up a little bit. So maybe give us like a snapshot for some people who might remember seeing you in Clemson to what you're doing now. Like, how did that all happen?
So graduated college in 2019 and got a job at a smaller newspaper in the Northeast and did that for like 18 months. And then COVID hit. I actually got like laid off because of COVID and bounced around a little bit then. But then I was actually one of like the first hires of On3, and I did some like desk writing, helped out Clemson, helped out Ohio State, and then moved to our national news desk and kind of helped like run like college football weekends and stuff as an editor. And then Shannon Terry gave me the opportunity to be an NIL writer and kind of taken that and run with it. And it's kind of turned into what it is now, where I kind of have my hand in everything these days, whether it be the playoff, whether it be the portal, whether it be how much recruits getting paid, stuff like that. So it's kind of nonstop, but I love it. And I'm just so grateful for all the opportunities On3's given me.
And so you mentioned the, never sleeping and all the things that you're doing right now. And it's just, it's a crazy time in college athletics. And we're going to be all over the place, with some of the things that is going on right now. But I think we have to start with the Nico saga, because that was just one of the craziest events, like happening in live time in front of everybody. Like the laundry was out and everybody knew kind of what was going on with that. How did you get so involved with it quickly and your reporting and things of that nature? Like from your perspective, let's just start at the very first thing that happened with that to where we are today.
So it was a Thursday. Like I know it's only been 8 weeks, but I remember
it so, I mean, it feels like years ago.
But I remember it so distinctly because I'm the kind of guy who wakes up early, wants to get to the office, and I'm not going to sleep in. So, but that day I had a doctor's appointment. So I was like, all right, so my day's already off. What's going to happen when I walk in at 10 a.m.? I can't imagine it's going to be that eventful of a day. And I got a phone call from a source, and it's like, hey, we're pretty confident Nico's going to enter the transfer portal. And I'm like, what? You're screwing with me. It's I don't believe you. But they're like, no. Some stuff went down yesterday, and we think he's going to go in the portal. And this was a source that had nothing to do with Tennessee or Nico's camp, but someone in the college football space who would know what they're talking about. And the funny thing in hindsight is ESPN did kind of deep dive into all of this. I don't know, 2 weeks after it happened, and they did come out and say Nico made some comments on Wednesday to some players. So that was funny to read. But so I got that call Thursday, and then your radar goes up. You start trying to make the phone calls, okay, what's going on, and you quickly discover that Tennessee is in this situation where it's clear that Nico's camp would like some more money before the 2025 season kicks off. And the portal opens, and that is 5 or 6 days. Spring games in 2 days. It's all going to come to a tipping point. So you talk to Tennessee. I talked to his dad that day too. Had a phone call with him where he basically told me to lose his number. It's okay. And we get to this point where it's okay, so we know all of this is going on. We're not going to just sit here and wait for it to happen. So we decide to, after talking to plenty of sources and trying to vet this thing, we decide to put out that we're comfortable reporting that there are active negotiations, that Nico's making 2.4. He loves Josh Heupel. He loves Tennessee, but they want some more money. And not everyone loved that, and that's fine. And I know you're going to ask me about this, but I still can't, as a reporter and doing what I do, I'm not trying to dance on a grave or be right at the end of the day, right? Obviously when I report something, I stand by it. I have the sources that say it, and I trust my sources, and I've vetted my sources, and I stand by it. So when I report a story, it's not to get one over on someone.
Sure.
But I still can't believe everything went down the way it did after we hit publish on that story.
Sure. I mean, and I think, Pete, that shows it's college football. It's touchy. It matters so much to so many people. And I know, Nico's dad called you some names on social media, the Tennessee fans. You're already dealing with a crazy fan base, Pete. I mean, that fan base is a little crazy. So I mean, it's got to be I've had very minor, and Mac has had this too, nothing of this scale, where you tweet something and then you put your phone away or you put your phone down and then you pick it up and you're like, oh my God, it's a firestorm. But I can't imagine how you felt. So how did you continue to deal with that and really stand by your reporting? Because that's the thing, right? Is you have sources on this, and in the end, you were right.
So yeah, driving home that day, I definitely, I was dragged all across social media, and it wasn't a fun day. And Nico's dad sent me some text messages too that, it wasn't ideal, and it wasn't a good spot to be in. And people were coming out and trying to report things too of like, hey, like this is wrong. This is not what we're hearing. And then Friday happened.
And the rest was history.
And the rest was history.
Yeah.
And you were right. You were right. I mean, it's just such a crazy thing to be a part of. And now you've got, I mean, he's moved on. He's at UCLA. I mean, it really, not obviously these talks were already happening. Like I get that. You reporting them didn't make them happen. But so much of this is going to change the face of college football and what's going to happen this year with him going to UCLA and all these different things. So it's just kind of it's a crazy world that you live in, Pete. But I know you signed a long-term deal with On3 after that. So congrats. I mean, that's exciting. But
yeah.
Has it made you kind of think about how to handle some of this? I mean, you got to report what you know. Like that can't change.
Yeah. That experience, like I know the whole Jackson Cantwell recruitment.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys followed that. He committed to Miami in mid-May. Reporting on that, and then my experience with everything that happened with Nico just kind of gave me a little bit more confidence. Like, if I'm going to trust my sources, and I know that On3 has my back, and I also know at the end of the day we're not going to go out there and report anything that would be false. We're obviously going to vet it and make sure that we're confident in what we're reporting in. But I think the Nico experience definitely gave me, a little bit more confidence to do my job and not always have to look behind my back.
Yeah. Walk us through that, man. Like breaking news and big stuff when it happens and you're talking about you vet it with your source. Like give me the process of, okay, you get the call and you're like,
Yep.
That sounds crazy. Do you run that to another source? Do you run it to some of your leadership? Like what's the point to get to publishing an article of breaking news? Because it has to happen pretty quick, right? Because you don't, there is something to being first and getting information out there.
So it's all about the kind of source, right? Like there's the source that green lights it and is okay with you running it on background, right? Of like, they don't want to be quoted, but they're okay with you running it and you trust that source. There's also the range of sources who you really wouldn't trust them as far as you could throw them, but you know that they typically have, they might not always be right, but there's typically some truth to it. And like you talk to any reporter, there's always like some sources like that who you're never going to just use them as the source because you know that you need to go fact check it.
But they might tell you there's some smoke, and then you start looking.
Yeah,
and you start finding
and that's
out.
exactly what happened with Nico. And then, beyond that too, I am in the office and work closely with, my social media guy, Jack Terry, who's Shane's son. Luke Stampini's my editor. He's great. And like when everything went down with Carson Beck, they were all sitting there when I was on the phone and kind of like watched it transpire. And, from there, the pieces start to come together of like, okay, who else do we need to call? Let's get the story ready. Let's get the graphic ready. But then some things don't, like there's more things that I don't report on than I do, that we know about, that we hear about, that we have the cookie crumbs too, but we can't like put the whole cake together.
Sure. Do you get more calls now, Pete?
I don't know if I get more calls. Maybe I think I can give you a better idea on that in like December.
That is true, because there's some validity to that, because now that you've done it and people are like, oh, he handled this situation well, maybe
the spring portal was fun to cover. The spring portal was fun to cover, so that was good.
Well, okay,
on the flip side, Kelly, though, I think there's some people who don't want to pick up my call now
because they don't want it out there.
Yeah, I mean, I have a job to do with threading the needle of not burning sources at the same time.
Sure. And
I take that very seriously. And whenever I talk to someone, I have to respect you that if they want to go off the record, they want to go off the record. And maybe that helps me put together a full picture at the end of the day and leads me to do better reporting, but you also have to protect sources.
Sure. Well, and let's just take people behind the scenes. You had to pause the interview for a little bit because you had to handle some phone calls. I mean, you're a busy guy, Pete. This is, the college football world never stops. We've seen with SEC Media Days going on this week, some quotes, Kirby Smart talking about how he wants one transfer portal window and all that stuff. What have you been hearing about the portal, because you're so locked into it? Could we see just one window? I mean, obviously we need some changes. It's a disaster when you got guys transferring during the playoff, but what do you think is going to happen with the portal overall?
So there's a lot of like undercurrents going on with the portal. Like on paper, it'd be really easy if you could just move to one portal in January and everyone goes in during those 10 days after the playoffs are over. But there's also federal legislation and there could be lawsuits of you're capping the amount of time players can enter the transfer portal. And we've already seen before that the NCAA took a loss in the courtroom. They had to settle a lawsuit, and now guys can transfer as much as they want. So I think that's a really slippery hill. I think beyond that, too, it is pretty divisive of when people want the portal to be. You heard Ryan Day kind of come out and say that he wasn't able to build his 2025 roster because of how deep they went the playoff. And he would prefer it in the spring. And then you have SEC that wants it in the winter. So I don't know if there's a perfect thing. And, the other thing, Kelly, is nothing is changing in like the immediate, like 2025, 26. It's just going to be what we've been dealing with the last 4 or 5 years.
I think what's interesting, Pete, is you have a lot of different vantage points in this thing, right? Like you talk to players, you talk to coaches, you talk to probably boosters and administrators and things of that nature. From the player perspective, what have you heard on that? I mean, do players like the fact that they can go and come as they please? Do they want more structure? Like, what do you kind of see from, and I guess accountability too? Like, what do you see from the player vantage point about these portal windows?
I think it definitely differs on who you're talking to. You talk to one player and they love the idea that they can go bounce around until they find the perfect spot. You talk to another player who is, like they want to help build a team. They might be old school. They want their guys to stay put and they want to like contend for a national title, and the portal opening left and right doesn't help them. I'm talking to 2 Clemson grads here. I think what Dabo has done in saying, all right, we'll dip into the portal when we need to, but it's not going to be our number one roster recruiting tactic. I think what he's done has been really incredible. And if you talked to me 2 years ago, I'd probably take some like dumb shot at Dabo. But I think what you're seeing with this year's roster is that he has continued to stick to the high school recruiting pipeline, and he's put together a roster that wants to be at Clemson. And I think that might make all the difference in 2025.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's going to be exceptional. It's going to be interesting to see. Pete, I had another one kind of on the transfer portal, and it ties back in to the NIL process and these numbers, man. I mean, here, and it is fascinating, all the different things. And you guys do the valuation and, the I guess, equation to get to that, whatever that looks like. But also, like, we've seen, coaches go straight at it and say, well, I don't have $40 million roster. We saw Sarkisian do that. And then you kind of countered on Twitter and said, well, maybe it's closer to 25, whatever it is, or 35. How do you guys figure that out? Like, who are you calling? Where are you getting these numbers? And I guess really, how do you figure them out? Because I'd love to know too. I want to know everybody's, right? Like, I wish we had everybody's contract number, because that'd be fun just to see the transparency there, which I don't think would ever happen.
So the On3 NIL valuation is like, we use an algorithm to produce it, and it's broken down to like your roster value, right? So like what a school would pay a player, and then also their NIL value, so social media followers, things like that. It's been interesting. I know in the first couple of years that we did it, there's a lot of criticism, but in the last 18 months, we've had a lot of schools start to reach out and be like, we really like the product. We think it's right around the market value for most players. And I know some people are starting to want to use it to kind of help with revenue sharing that's going to kick in this summer. So that's been really interesting. In terms of like, it's never going to be a perfect product, and I think Shannon Terry said that multiple times too. Just it's always going to be tweaked and changed because the market always changes. I go up and do my reporting, and then I bring it back along with Andy Staples and Joe Tipton, who does basketball and stuff like that. And if we think evaluation is too high, we'll tweak it to the correct amount. And if we think it's too low, we'll make sure it's tweaked, and we go over, what are the starting quarterbacks in college football making right now? What should that be reflected as in the NIL valuation? So I think that the valuation and what we do at On3 is, and Shannon Terry's been all about this since day one when I started doing NIL, was we're not going to not report numbers, because while right now not everybody wants to talk about it, in a decade, college sports is probably going to be as close to professionalized sports as we've ever seen, and numbers are going to be out in the open. And when Adam Schefter reports that Justin Fields is signing with the Jets, well, probably in 5 to 10 years, when the next great college quarterback transfers, we'll probably all be openly reporting how much money he's getting. So the process to getting there isn't fun. The college football fan base across the country has been told for so long by the NCAA that money is not a good thing. So there's a lot of pushback there. But yeah, I think we're gonna keep trying to push the boundary here at On3.
That's a great way to put it. And I think you guys are ahead of the curve. And I think what Mac really wants to know is, can you adjust the algorithm to 2014, adjust it for inflation, and, tell him how much money he missed out on.
Let me know what invoice I need to send and where. That's what I need to know. That's what I need.
Max getting screwed by the settlement, right? I don't
exactly.
think you get any of that back damages. That's screwed.
Yeah, don't worry, brother. We'll
Guys,
have another
even me,
lawsuit
I could have
coming.
made $20, you know?
Yeah, that's right, KG. We'll sue him.
He won a national title. I'm sure he probably could have hit six figures.
Come on. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, Matt, it's okay, Pete. It's all right. Well, we don't want to live in the past. Now we just live through our children and assume they're going to make serious NIL money. Okay, let's talk playoff here, Pete, because, again, talking season is here, right? And we're seeing a lot of people are trying to put things out there, and I know it's all strategic about, are we expanding to 16 teams, automatic bids for the SEC, Big Ten, whatever. I know we are changing the model, so we will have straight seeding next year, which is, I think that's good. Probably the Boise State rule, if you will. But where are we with playoff expansion? Like, how close are we to just getting rid of 12 and going to 16 or whatever it is?
So the College Football Playoff Management Committee meets in mid-June in North Carolina. So that's all the commissioners getting together. That's like the first real shot we're going to have at any changes coming for 2026. And it almost sounds like unlikely it's going to happen just from the tone that Greg Sankey's had this week in Destin at spring meetings. I think that we're moving towards a 16 team format from everything I've been told and everyone I've talked to. I think the biggest question isn't how many teams, but how we get to that number. Is it going to be this 5 and 11 format where you have the 5 highest seeded conference championships and then all at-large bids to make up the rest of the field, or you have the 4-4-2-2-1, which gives 4 seeds to Big Ten and SEC auto qualifiers, and then 2 to the ACC and Big 12, and a 1 to the G5, and the rest is at-large bids. So, it's, I think everyone has to get in a room and really kind of argue it out and let their voices be heard until we get like a real idea of which direction it's going in. And going back to what Sankey said this week, like all the SEC coaches are fans of like the 5 and 11 model, and that's super interesting and good to know. But I'll be honest with you guys, I don't think it matters what they want. And I was talking to Kenny Dillingham on the phone yesterday, and it's like, so what do you think about the portal? He's like, I'm not going to give you my opinion because it just doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, you're right. Like it might sound like blunt or rude, but at the end of the day, the people making the decisions aren't the coaches anymore in this. Correct. So they can say whatever they want, but that doesn't mean the commissioners are going to move forward with what their coaches want.
Yeah, which is crazy. And I've said that for years, that the people who are making these decisions and making these rules and these changes are not the people that are dealing with it, like aren't the people that are directly in it. And that's the coaches and players and administrators and things of that nature. Pete, what about you, for you? Like if we gave you all the power in the world right now and you're the college football czar, what's your 16 team or 12 team or 4 team or 2 team? What's your college football playoff look like, and how would you have it ran?
I grew up in the Northeast, where the only like Power 4 school that mattered was Boston College, and they're never in the picture. So I watched a ton of FCS football growing up. And like I have like fond memories of going to like a couple FCS playoff games. So I think the more teams, the better. I think getting more games at home environments is better for the sport. I think I shouldn't say we had because I'm not making any of these decisions. But I think that college football has got to a point now where fans can't keep up with it. That fans are going to not be drawn into college football because of how, right? Like, when was the last time we had these conversations about the NFL playoff in like June? So I think getting to a format that allows as many at-larges as possible is important. So I'm okay with 16, and I want more at home games. So we'll see.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think I would prefer a little smaller field, but once you've gone to 12, you're not shrinking because you have the TV inventory, and we all know those people are not giving that
Ain't
up.
going backwards.
Absolutely not. All right, Pete, let's just talk about a few ACC teams if we can here. And let's start with Clemson, a team that you've once covered. It's been weird to see, like, Mac and I are it's almost like Mac and I are used to being like this, right? Like everyone's coming for Clemson. And now this summer, it's like Clemson's the darling, and some people have them the number one team in the country and all this
people
stuff.
Off the boat. There's not enough room on the Roy bus anymore.
On the Roy bus. What do you make of what's going on with Clemson, and are they a true national championship contender?
I think Clemson has everything it needs to be a national title contender. And in a year when a lot of teams don't return the most production, I think that's why Clemson's at the top. And I've talked to a lot of people in the last week, did some like radio hits, and everyone's like, how do you feel about Alabama? How do you feel about this school? I'm like, well, let's watch how they play football first, because I'm not quite sure how it's all going to come together at some of these schools. I think that Clemson is the closest thing to a sure thing for everyone right now, because Kate Klubnik has the experience he has. We saw him flash like really the level we all thought he could be at the end of last year. I think that what Peter Woods brings back on the defensive line is going to be huge. I like the young wide receivers. I think that Clemson has everything it needs, and I really like what Dabo did in the portal. I thought he had a moment where he said, okay, like, this is this team right now. We could probably win the ACC with it. Let's take it a step further and get back to the 2010s and go get Will Help from Purdue, and let's like seriously make everyone think about the old Clemson kind of coming back. And I know it's weird to say the old Clemson. I know, because it was like 6 years ago. Like, I know it's weird to say, but there's been a period of time where they really just haven't been in that national contender conversation.
And it's going to be interesting just to see, like you said, all the teams that don't have guys coming back, right? That don't have their quarterback coming back, and Clemson does. And so is this like the perfect storm for the Tigers of look at all the production, the most in the NCAA, all that there is, and on top of a really good schedule that if they handle business, and there's some fun things that could happen there. Staying in the ACC, looking at Florida State, man, I mean, it's hard to imagine the 2 years that they've gone through where all that success, undefeated conference champ, having it ripped away from you. And since that, I mean, it's been like steep downhill and bad. And just last year was abysmal. I know every Florida State fans know that, but Tommy Castellanos comes to town. Some other key transfers come to town. Gus Malzahn, some other key staff additions. There's some excitement, I think, but in your opinion, is there enough, maybe not to get undefeated ACC champs, but getting back to, close to double-digit wins? What's your vibe in Tallahassee right now?
I'm interested to see how the portal went. And that's like the new big thing in trying to cover college football and trying to talk about if teams going to be good in the fall is like, you really like what they brought in the portal and stuff, but like, how's it all mesh? Like, how's it all come together? And a year ago, Florida State was coming off a really great season, and we all expected them to reload, and that's why the 2-10 season came out of nowhere. I like Tommy Castellanos a lot. As I mentioned before, I watched a lot of BC football growing up. I was impressed with what he was able to do there and get Jeff Hafley to a bowl game. I guess my biggest question is, can he up at a level, and it's no secret that Florida State's a bigger brand and a bigger stage when you're playing at quarterback in Tallahassee. So does he improve with Gus Malzahn? Does he take it up a little? I mean, I know everyone circled the Alabama game. I mean, on paper, Alabama should be a huge favorite. So I think the bigger question, looking at Florida State, is can they make a bowl game? Because I think that's going to be where the expectation is after such a bad 2024. And sorry to keep rambling here. I think Mike Norvell needs to make a bowl game for things. I know they have so much money invested in him, and I know things probably aren't going to change with his status at Florida State, no matter how 2025 goes. But I think he needs to make a bowl game for 2026 for him not to go in on the hot seat.
I agree. And I think for Florida State, I think we're talking bowl game. I'm not sure we're really talking 10 wins. I mean, unless something crazy happens. But my other big question with Florida State, yes, you bring in Castellanos, Gus Malzahn. What about the other positions there, Pete? What they've done in the portal. I know Florida State fans have always been a little frustrated with Mike Norvell, high school recruiting. That's been kind of a point of contention. Do they have, I feel like we use this term now, the overall talent on the roster, right? Do they have that anywhere near what they did a couple of years ago?
I don't think the overall talent is where it was a couple of years ago. Yeah. I like what they did. I really like the Deuce Robinson pickup at wide receiver. I think they brought in a couple good pieces on defense, but they don't have Keon Coleman. They don't. The one hope though is that you have someone, Thomas Castellanos, who can do what Jordan Travis can do that TJU was never able to do.
Right. And we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how much he can get back to that. I know they're excited about his creative ability, his magician-like tendencies. And Florida State, 2 games in a row, had very up and close personal, kind of vantage point of what he can do there. So we'll see. I think everybody kind of agrees, though. Let's get back to bowling. That's a good baseline, and then where can you go from there? Will be interesting to see. Let's stay in Florida, in the state of Florida, and let's go down to Miami, who gets Carson Beck. And listen, Miami is always hot topic in the offseason because of the money, because of the investment, because of what they do, transfer portal, recruiting. They just got a number one, I think he's number one player in the country, depends on where you look, I guess, and Jackson Cantwell, the big OT, very interesting prospect who does everything. But what are your thoughts on the Canes, man? What does this year look like? Post number one player in the world, drafted in Cam Ward, everything that he did last year. Where are they now? With Carson Beck at the helm.
I am really excited about Miami. I think that they can make the CFP for first time under Mario Cristobal. I think that Carson Beck is going on a revenge tour. Everything I've been told is he's healthy and he's looking good. I love what they did in the spring portal and putting talent around him. I think that O-line's going to be pretty good in protecting him. So I'm excited about Miami. I think Miami has a very real shot to make the CFP.
All right. You heard it here first, Miami fans. They're going to love that, Pete. Okay, last one for me. We have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that's our dear friend Bill Belichick, who is now in the ACC with North Carolina. And I saw you retweeted this. I think this quote was on SiriusXM, but Mac Brown said that they've committed money to it. They've helped him with academics. They've lowered standards. There's absolutely no reason they shouldn't be successful. Okay, it's just so funny to hear that from Mac Brown. But aside from his girlfriend and all of those issues and the interview and, whatever the hell is happening there, football-wise, how is this going to work, Pete? I mean, do you have any initial thoughts or just what you've heard? Is he actually coaching football and not dealing with everything else?
He's coaching football.
Okay, good.
Watching him deal with not, making the CFP and maybe not having the best first year at North Carolina is going to be really fascinating to watch and see what that all looks like. I really don't know what to expect, Kelly. I know that they brought in Gio Lopez, and I'm excited about what he can do at quarterback, but I couldn't list off 10 offensive weapons they have, and I couldn't tell you how confident I am about the defense because I just think there's so many unknowns on that roster right now.
Yeah.
And so many of the pieces that they had when they brought Belichick in have left. like Bo Atkinson leaving is going to leave a massive hole
Big
on
deal.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal. And they lost a lot of wide receivers too, who, maybe they weren't like 1,000-yard wide receivers, but those are guys who had experience in the ACC that are now gone. And I just think it's a huge lift in the amount of time he has. And Mac's comments are funny, but at the same time, every school in the country kind of does things like that when you get a new coach.
Yeah, of course they do. Oh man, it's going to be fascinating. It's a weird time in college athletics. Maybe some clarity coming soon. Who knows? House settlement, things of that nature. Maybe we know a couple of things. Playoff. Someone else says something in an hour, it changes all of it. Who knows? But Pete, this was fun. Great talking with you, buddy. Good luck in the future. Go write that article, breaking news right now. We appreciate your time, my man.
Thanks so much, guys.